don't think that employers have a full understanding of the behavioral difficulties that this disease causes. And as a caregiver, if you're still trying to work, you never know what you will wake up to. You don't know if this is going to be a good morning where everything runs smoothly, or if this is going to be a bad day or where nothing goes right. And you have to figure out what you have to do in that moment, on the spot. And that might mean that you're late for work. And what the employer sees is that you're tardy. And they don't have an understanding of how that waking up moment can change the entire day. I think maybe we need to do some education for employers. I had a tough time getting FMLA. Well, I never got it. I just said forget it, because there was this discussion with my boss about, well, I don't think I can approve this FMLA, blah, 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 but you've got plenty of sick leave and vacation time, so you can use the sick leave and vacation time. And I worked in human resources, but that was not the issue. The issue was protecting my job and not being disciplined for tardiness and excessive absenteeism. And FMLA gives you that option. So I just quit. I would tell employers to, if you're dealing with an employee who is a caregiver for someone who has Alzheimer's disease, they're going to be tired because you never sleep. They're going to be grumpy, and they're going to have bad days. I talked about the day when I dropped my husband off, and I thought about would I do this again. As the disease progressed and I was working, when I would get to work, I needed inspiration. So I found 5, 6 little things, and I typed them up, cut them out, and put them in frames. They were small, so that I put them between my keyboard and my monitor, depending on what kind of day I was having. So when I got to work, I could rearrange them so I could see what I needed to see. And my favorite one is shoot for the stars. No, shoot for the moon. You might not land, but at least you'll be among stars. So what can I say? I love that. And I would move those around so that I could, as I'm doing this, I could look down and I could see something that would give me the energy to keep going. Inspiration. It's just, you need it. And you need to share this, because you don't know who else is doing the same thing that you're doing. So after I found my voice, I would tell people, I'm a caregiver. My husband has Alzheimer's disease. And you talk about how people respond. I worked in human resources, and we had the type of work that I did in human resources. We had certain clients or departments that we worked with, and I worked with the police department. And it was a Friday. It was one of those bad Fridays, and you're sitting at your desk. I was sitting at my desk praying, "Dear Lord, please find me. Please help me. I need help." And I looked up, and there was this lady standing in my doorway, and she was a police officer. And I did not know her, and she told me that her boss had sent her over to talk to me. And I'm thinking, nobody called me from the police department, so I don't know what's going on. You know how you try to do a quick reference about what's happening, and I had no clue. And all I could think of was, there's some problem over there that I need to be dealing with. And then she said, she thought you might want to talk to me because both of my parents have Alzheimer's disease.
Oh my.
I looked up and I said, "Thank you, God. This is an angel that I need right now." And I said, "Please come in." Please come in. And she talked to me for about an hour. And it was from her that I found out about Grace Place and the support groups. She came in on a Friday, And it was the Friday before the support group meeting at Grace Place, and I was there the next day. And when you share, like with people that you never know how they will be able to help you. You never know. So I'm real thankful to my friend for Celeste for doing that for me. So. I think there is a stigma because people do not understand the illness itself. But I think it's also in how you present yourself. I was never ashamed of my husband. I was never embarrassed by my husband's behavior. I held my head high and I helped him because it was more important for me to help him maintain his dignity and validate his being, his presence as a human being than anything anybody else would say to me. I didn't care. This was about my husband and taking care of him. And it just tells you how, I found my voice, and we were having a difficult week, and he had not slept because, as the disease progresses, people don't sleep. And it got to be Friday, and I thought, this can't go on. He has to rest. And I called the neurologist, spoke to his nurse. She called me back, and she said she'd talked to the neurologist, and he had decided that I needed a psychiatrist, and I needed to find one and make an appointment so that the psychiatrist could prescribe some medication for him that would help him sleep. And I remember telling her, I need to understand what you just told me. You're telling me that you are not going to prescribe medication that will help him sleep and reduce his anxiety. So he has to go through the whole weekend like this. And you're telling me that I need to call somebody on Monday to see about getting an appointment maybe 3-4 weeks from now? And she said, well, yeah. I said, no, not going to happen. That is not going to happen. And this is what you will do for me right now. I was feeling my voice. And I said, he needs to sleep. So you go back and you talk to the neurologist and you tell him he needs some non-addictive medication to sleep and he needs something for anxiety. And I want it done by 5 o'clock so that I can pick the prescription up by 6 o'clock because he needs to sleep. And she said, I beg your pardon? I said, oh yeah, I'm not going to repeat myself. This is what I want and this is what I need. And I will wait for you to call me back at 5 o'clock. Hung up the phone. And she called me back at 5 o'clock to tell me where the medication, what medication had been prescribed, and then I could pick it up by 6. I said, thank you very much. So now, what was I supposed to do next? 2 things. Pick up the prescription and make sure that he had a restful weekend because he needed to rest. And on Monday morning, I called the nurse back and I said, thank you. I really appreciate your hearing my concerns and addressing my concern because I knew that I might have to call her back. And when I left a message for her, this is what I wanted her to, this is how I wanted her to respond if I had to leave her another message. That's that crazy woman who's taking care of her husband because she loves him. I'll call her back. I did not want her to say, that's that crazy woman. I'll wait until later to call her back. So it's just how you present yourself. And whenever I had to act ugly on behalf of my husband, I always called and apologized. I needed an immediate need. If I have to act ugly to get that need met, I will do that. But I will also call you back and apologize and say thank you. Well, that's a hard question to answer because in the diagnosis process, you're filled with so many emotions. You know, the anger, the why me, Lord, you know, all of that. I think it was there, but it got mixed up with all of all of those other confusing emotions. I think at church it's just really interesting because, you know, you're in denial, and we would go to church and you know, he would act out and whatever, and people, you know, then he stopped going to church, and I would go to church and people would say, well, how's Henry? And you know, they do all of this, and it just used to drive me so freaking crazy. So once I found my voice, and they would say, how's Henry doing? He's not doing well, he's dying, and he will never get better. So just stop telling me that, okay? They would look at you. What? I said, that's just what it is. He has a terminal illness. And I felt so much better saying that because I was no longer pretending with people. Now they did sort of, the first time I said that, they sort of were taken aback. But I sat down and I thought, oh, now they know, and they'll stop asking me that question. Because we don't know what to say when people say, they always say, well, how's Henry doing? And you say, oh, he's doing okay, but he's not, you know, not really whatever. And they'll say, oh, we'll just pray for you and that he'll get better. And I wanted people to stop praying for me that he would get better. I wanted people to pray that we would get through this. And that's a big difference. That's a big difference. And then they started saying, I'm praying for you and Henry to get through this. Well, thank you. That's all I wanted. That's all I wanted. But we as caregivers have to stop saying it's okay, because we give the wrong keys to people. That's why they respond like they do. So, you know, once I took the Stress Busters program and found my voice, I could say that and not feel guilty. Alzheimer's disease is not like cancer, and you when you're doing Alzheimer's education, you see a lot of that, a lot of comparison. And when you're looking at somebody or talking to somebody who is just new to this, and they want to know what's happening, and you can pull out this piece of paper and you can say, these are all of the symptoms for stage 1 Alzheimer's disease or whatever. And they look at you and they say, oh, this is everything that could happen. But you might only have 3 or 4 on that list. And their response is, well, why would you give me the whole list? Right. Because this is the list of some of the experiences that people with this stage of Alzheimer's disease have experienced. You might not experience many of these, but you don't know what to expect. That's why we give you the list. And you know, with, you know, they make the analogy to cancer. You identify the cancer type, what stage it's in, what the treatment is going to be, and what to expect with the protocol of treatment. Can't happen in Alzheimer's disease because everybody is so different. So different. You need to be able to call somebody that you feel comfortable in talking to say, this is what's happening today. What could I expect? What would you suggest that I do? The first thing that I tell people is you go to a support group. And the response is, well, why should I go to a support group? You've got 12 or 15 people in a support group who have experienced so many different things in Alzheimer's disease. It's a group think. Let's put all of these brains together to see if we can come up with a strategy that might help you. You've got resources there. Resources. You need them more than you ever think.